everyone. I am April Joy Lagarde and my partner is Posas, and we will discuss fiscal policy. The objectives of our topic is first is discusses fiscal policy as a tool for stabilizing the economy through manipulating government spending taxes. So next is we will know the burden taxation and the difference of impact and incidence of burden. Next is to know the uses of fiscal policy and the effects of budgeting. So, the introduction of our topic is fiscal policy. It takes up to influence income and consumption and lead the economy towards growth and development. It also has non-economic objectives which may conflict with economic aims. So fiscal policy, it is the use of government revenue collection or taxation and expenditure or spending to influence the economy. So now I will discuss sources and uses of a public funds. So first is taxes. So taxes include income taxes of individual and businesses, property taxes, resident taxes, import taxes, inheritance taxes, gift taxes, and other specific taxes. So what is taxation? So taxation is defined as mandatory payments made by people or businesses to the respective government to fund government expenditure. So every country in the world has some system of taxing its citizens. So the purpose of taxes is to generate revenue for the government so that it can provide public goods and services. So some example of public goods and services that are funded by taxes included national defense, healthcare, education, and infrastructure. So in addition to generating revenue, so the definition of tax in economics suggests that it can also be used as a tool to influence behavior. For example, taxes on cigarettes and alcohol are often used to discourage people from consuming these products. So there are many different types of taxes, but some of the most common types are income taxes, sales taxes, and property taxes. So taxation also refers to the process by which a government collects money from its citizens in order to pay for public goods and services. So the revenue collected may be used for various purposes such as to fund social welfare programs, build infrastructure, or pay for national defense. So why do you taxes pay for? So the specific tax revenue varies from country to country as well as from the level of government to another. So in the Philippines, federal taxes are used to fund programs such as Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, as well as to pay for national defense. So state and local taxes, on the other hand, are typically used to fund programs like education, transportation, and public safety. So taxes have two collecting agencies. So first is the Bureau of Internal Revenue or a BIR and the Bureau of Customs. So the Bureau of Internal Revenue or a BIR is the revenue service for the Philippine government, which is responsible for collecting more than half of the total tax revenues of the government. So it is an agency of the Department of Finance and it is led by a commissioner. So the key function of BIR is tax administration. So the BIR administers tax laws and regulation, making sure taxpayers comply and addressing any tax-related issues. So this includes processing tax returns, issuing tax identification number or TIN, and conducting. And the next is the Bureau of Customs. So it implements an effective revenue collection by preventing and suppressing smuggling and entry of prohibited imported goods. So it supervises and controls the entrance and clearance of vessels and aircraft engaged in foreign commerce. So what is the main goal of custom? So custom is an authority or agency in a country responsible for collecting tariffs and for controlling the flow of goods, including animals, transports, personal effects, and hazardous items into and out of a country. So, what is the function of the Custom Department? So, it is responsible for the business regarding cargo clearance, collection and exemption of duties and fees, and management of means of transport, warehouses and custom brokers, and etc. So, in charge of the interpretation and classification of tariffs for export in goods. So now I will discuss a public debt. Consists of all claims against our government which may have resulted from loans or advance extended to the Philippine government or as payment of goods and services rendered to it. So public debt refers to the total amount of money that a government owes external and internal creditors. So this debt may arise from various sources such as loans, advance, or obligation from the provision of goods and services rendered to the government. So essentially, it's the amount the government needs to pay for money it is borrowed. So, the reason for government borrowing. So, first is the political reluctance to raise taxes. So, government may avoid raising taxes for political reasons. So, as increasing taxes can be unpopular among citizens, instead of raising taxes, governments may borrow money to meet their spending needs. So, borrowing avoid the immediate public backlash that might come from tax hikes, but it creates a long-term financial obligation in the form of debt. So next is the funding government-sponsored capital improvements. So government often need to finance large-scale capital projects like infrastructure or example yung roads, bridge, schools, hospital, and etc. So these projects requires significant upfront costs, and borrowing allows the government to spread this cost over time rather than depleting immediate revenue. This way, the benefits of the infrastructure, better roads, yung more hospitals, are realized while the government repays the debt. And the next is the deliberate use of the budget to stimulate the economy. So government sometimes borrow money deliberately as part of economic policy to stimulate growth. So during times of economic downturn or recession, governments may borrow to increase public spending, create jobs, or invest in projects that will stimulate demand in the economy. So this is often referred to as fiscal stimulus. So the idea is that in the short term, borrowing and spending can boost the economy and help recover faster. So the third is deliberate use of the budget to stimulate the economy. So governments sometimes borrow money deliberately as part of economic policy to stimulate growth. So during times of economic downturn or recession, governments may borrow to increase public spending, create jobs, or invest in projects that will stimulate demand in the economy. So this is often referred to as fiscal stimulus. So the idea is that in the short term, borrowing and spending can boost the economy and help it recover faster. Taxation, a tool. Taxation as tool is not just a source of income of the government. It also used as an instrument to manipulate conditions in the economy. So, an increased tax rates will lessen the disposable income of the people and cause their demand. So, taxation refers to the process by which the government collects money from individual, businesses, and other entities to fund public services and programs. So, however, taxation is not just a means to raise revenue, it's also a tool that the government used to influence or manipulate the economy. So, how taxation affects the economy. So first is increased tax rates. So when the government raises taxes, it essentially takes more money from individuals and businesses. So this results in decrease in disposable income, which is the money that people have left after paying their necessary expenses like food, housing, transportation, and etc. So next is impact on demand. So as people's disposable income decreases, they have less money to spend on goods and services. So this means that customer demand for products will go down because people are now more cautious about spending. So for example, if a person incomes is taxed more heavily, so they might decide to cut back on buying non-essential items, or they might choose to save more money instead of spending it. So, in the larger economy, this decrease in demand can lead to businesses seeing lower sales and potentially slowing down economic growth. So, why the government does this? So, governments might intentionally increase taxes to slow down the economy during times of excessive growth or inflation. So, if the economy is growing too quickly and prices are rising too fast, so the inflation higher tax can help cool down. So, the economy, by reducing consumer spending, by decreasing demand, the government can help control inflation and maintain a stable economy. So it had two principles of taxation, the direct and indirect taxes. So direct taxes and indirect taxes are two main categories of taxes that government used to collect revenue. So they differ in terms of who is responsible for paying them and how they are collected. So direct taxes are taxes that are directly levied on individuals or organizations. So, the taxpayer is responsible for paying these taxes directly to the government, and the government collects these taxes straight from the income, wealth, or property of the individual or businesses, and the burden of the tax falls directly on the taxpayer. So, the example of direct taxes. So, first is income taxes. So, these are taxes based on the income of individuals or businesses. For example, if a person earns a salary, the government may take a percentage of the income as income tax. And next is the inheritance taxes. So, this is a tax imposed on the estate or wealth left behind by a deceased person. So, the heirs or beneficiaries are required to pay this tax based on the value of the inherited property. So, the next is resident taxes. So, some local government impose taxes on residents. So, based on their property or the place they live, this tax is usually linked to owning or living in a particular area or property. So, the key characteristic of the Philippines. So, the next principle of taxation is indirect taxes. So, indirect taxes, on the other hand, are taxes on goods and services rather than on income or wealth. So, these taxes are not paid directly by individuals but are collected by intermediaries like businesses who then pass the tax on the government. So, essentially, the cost of these taxes is included in the price of goods or services, and consumers pay these taxes when they purchase them. So the example of indirect taxes is first is sales taxes. So this is a tax added to the price of goods and services. So the consumer pays the tax when they purchase an item, but the business collects the tax and remits it to the government. So the next is import duties. So these are taxes on goods brought into the country or imports. Businesses that import goods must pay the import duty. So taxation system and types of tax structures. So taxation is a system where individuals and businesses are required to pay a certain amount of their income or wealth to the government. So the structure of how taxes are applied can vary, and these different structures can be categorized as progressive, regressive, and proportional tax system. So first is progressive tax system. So in a progressive tax system, the tax rate increases as the tax base increases. So the tax base refers to the amount of income or wealth that is subject to tax. So this system is designed so that individuals or businesses with higher incomes or wealth pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes than those with lower incomes. So for example, if the tax rate increases as your income increases, someone earning 50,000 might pay 10% tax. So but someone earning 500,000 might pay 30%. So as a result, higher income individuals are taxed at higher rates, and this system aims to reduce income inequality by taking a larger share from those who can afford to pay more. So the key characteristic of progressive tax system is higher higher tax rate, aims to reduce income inequality, more burden on wealthier individuals. So example, first 10,000 of income tax at 10%. So next is 40,000 tax at 20%. And income over 50,000 tax at 30%. So the next type of taxation system is a regressive tax system. So in a regressive tax system, the tax rate decreases as the tax base increases. So in other words, people with lower incomes or wealth pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes compared to those with higher incomes. So this system can lead to greater inequality because it takes a larger proportion from the less wealthy. So for example, sales taxes and excise taxes are often considered regressive. So for instance, if a sales tax of 10% is applied to all purchases, a person who earned 20,000 will end up paying a larger percentage of their income in sales tax than someone who earns 200,000, even though they both pay the same amount of tax on their purchases. So the key characteristic of these systems is lower income equal higher percentage of income paid in tax. So can increase inequality and often applied to sales taxes or flat taxes. So example is a 1,000 purchase for someone earning 20,000 means they are paying 5% of their income in tax. So the next is 1,000 purchase for someone earning 200,000 means they are paying only 0.5% of their income in tax. So the next types of taxation system is a proportional tax system. So a proportional tax system, also called a flat tax system. So it imposes the same tax rate on all income levels. So regardless of how much a person earns, they will pay the same percentage of their income in taxes. So for example, if a proportional tax rate of 15% is applied, whether someone earns 10,000 or 1,000, they will pay 15% of their income in tax. So for example, if you earn 100,000, you would pay 15% in tax. And if you earn 1 million, you will pay $150 in tax. So the key characteristic of this system, so first, the same tax rate for all income levels, simply and easy to apply, so everyone pays the same percentage regardless of income. So example, tax rate equal 10% for all income levels. A person earning 10,000 pays 1,000. A person earning 100,000 pays 10,000. So So the difference of this system, progressive tax, higher income equals higher tax rate. For example, income tax. And then the regressive tax, lower income equal higher percentage of income paid in tax. Example is sales tax. And the last is the proportional tax, which is the same tax rate for all income levels. Example is flat tax. So each system has its pros and cons, and governments often use combination of this system to achieve their economic and social goals. So that's all my part. So may I call Angel Posas to continue the topic. Thank you so much.
Hello guys, maraming salamat sa aking partner na si Lagarde. So now I will introduce myself. My name is Angel Posas. I'm the second reporter for today. So I will discuss about the burden of taxation. Tax are considered a burden. Why? Because they represent a financial obligation placed on individual or entitled by the government. The concept of impact and incidence are crucial in understanding how this burden is distributed in the economy. There's two types of tax burden. First is impact. The impact is ito yung unang responsibilidad na nagbabayad ng buwis sa gobyerno. So halimbawa na lang nito ang seller o ang producer. The second is the incidence of taxation. So ito naman ay tumutukoy kung sino yung huling nagdadala ng economic burden ng buwis. So ang halimbawa nito ay customer o end user. So now, let's proceed the uses of fiscal policy. Fiscal policy may be used by the government to stimulate and depress the economy. Fiscal policy can either be expansionary or contractionary. It is expansionary or loss when taxation is reduced or public spending is increased with the aim of stimulating total spending in the economy, known as aggregated demand. On the other hand, fiscal policy is contractionary or tight when taxation increase or public spend is reduced order to restrict demand and slow down the economy. So, ano ang pinagkaiba ng expansionary at contractionary? So, ang expansionary fiscal policy ay ginagamit ng gobyerno para pasiglahin ang ekonomiya, lalo na kapag ang recession o mabagal ang takbo ng economy. Ang layunin ng expansionary ay pataasin ang aggregated demand o kabuuan ng gastusin para mapalago ang ekonomiya. Ang contractionary fiscal policy naman, ito ay ginagamit ng gobyerno para pabagalin ang ekonomiya kapag masyado itong mabilis at nagdudulot ng inflation or pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihin. Ang layunin naman ng contractionary is to control the aggregated demand para mapanatili ang balansin ng ekonomiya. So next is increasing government purchase or cutting tax rates will have the effect increasing aggregated demand. Reducing government purchase or increasing tax rates will increase aggregated demand. So halimbawa na lang ito is mga proyekto o serbisyo. Tataas ang demand para sa mga produkto at serbisyo. Kapag naman binawasan ang buwis, magkakaroon ng mas maraming disposable income ang mga tao at negosyo, kaya tataas ang kanilang paggastos. Ang deficient budget naman, ito ay nagre-resulta ng expansionary effect o pagpapalawak ng ekonomiya. Ang deficient budget is nangyayari kapag ang paggastos ng gobyerno ay mas mataas kaysa sa kita nito mula sa buwis. Upang mapunan yung kakulangan, ang gobyerno ay maaaring mangutang o gumamit ng ibang mga pinagkukunan ng pondo. A surplus budget has a contracting effect since not all the tax collected from the people are channeled back into economic stream. So let's proceed the effects of the budget. So dito yung may computation na. So I will discuss muna. The deficient and balanced budget have an expansionary effect while surplus budget can depress the economy. So ipapakita ko mamaya kung paano i-compute or paano makuha yung income multiplier. Ito po ang formula para makuha natin ang income multiplier. K equals 1 minus MPC. Ang MPC po natin ay 80% or magiging 0.8. So, 1 minus 0.8 equals 0.2. Tapos, ipag-divide lang po natin itong 1 sa 0.2. So, 1 divided by 0.2 equals 5. So, yung 5 po, siya po yung magiging multiplier natin. So, saan po nakuha itong 30 billion na ito? Dun sa PPT, meron doon na tax collection amount na 450 billion and the government spent 480 billion. So, gagawin po natin doon is, pagmaminusin lang po natin yung 480 minus 450 billion. So, ang magiging sagot po nun is 30 billion. So, yung 30 billion po ngayon, itatimes natin sa nakuha natin na multiplier income. So, yung 5 po. So, 30 billion times 5 equals 150 billion. So, yun po yung answer. So, another example naman po is, halimbawa po ang tax collection amount is 600 billion and the government spent is 660 billion and the deficient is 660 billion minus 600 billion equals 60 billion. So, ang supposing the MPC naman po is, halimbawa po ay 75%. So, magiging po siyang 0.75, then the income multiplier will be 4. So, ganito po, parang ganun lang din po sa una yung pag-compute. So, 1 minus 0.75 equals 0.25. So, pag i-divide nyo lang po silang dalawa, 1 divide 0.25 equals 4. So, yung 4 po, siya po yung tinatawag natin na multiplier. So, itong multiplier na ito, ita-times lang natin dun sa 60 billion. Dito, sa 60 billion, dun sa nakuha natin sa pag pinag-minus natin ang tax at saka government spent. So, pag ma-minus, ipagta-times natin sila. So, 60 times 4 equals 240 billion. Proceed comparing with the government actually earns from its spending with what is giving up the tax payers, we derive the following. So first is the government expense of 450 billion times income multiplier of 5. So 450 billion times 5 equals to 2,250 billion. So, ang income given up tax amount payments natin, consumption spending 80% of 450 billion, 0.8 times 450 billion equals 360 billion. Yung 360 billion natin na nakuha din itatimes natin siya sa multiplier na 5. So, 360 billion times 5 equals 18 billion. So, sa savings naman, may 20% of 40 billion, no income generated for 40 billion. So, yung 20% natin magiging 0.2 times 40 billion. Makukuha ang sagot is 90 billion. So, sa net increase income natin, meron tayo 40 billion. Kahit na ang net increase income natin ay 450 billion na ginastos ng gobyerno ay katumbas ng buwis na kinolekta mula sa mga taxpayers, ang actual na epekto sa ekonomiya ay mas malaki dahil ang consumption spending ay nagtutulot ng mas mataas na income na mula sa multiplier effect. So, hanggang dun lang po ang aming report at maraming salamat.